free energy now.
Imagine a world in which each home has its own power generator that obtains its energy in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us now as we track our progress towards such a world.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Allen. You can join us online at freeenergynow.net, where you can find a list of past guests, download those interviews, and read the stories associated with those shows. We're joined today, April 3rd, 2014, by some of the folks at Fix the World organization. They recently announced the open sourcing of the Quantum Energy Generator, or QEG, which they say is capable of outputting 10 kilowatts in self-sustaining mode. With us on the show today are Hope Girl, who has been the public face for the project, and her father-in-law, James Robitaille of Pennsylvania, the inventor who got the system running, as well as Hope's mother, Valerie. They call themselves the Free the World QEG family. They're presently in Taiwan, where they are training around 30 people, including from China, how to build one of these systems. They're very busy, and they'll be telling us about that. They posted a set of plans for these for anyone to download on March 25th, receiving 20,000 downloads in the first 24 hours. Prior to this, they ran two very successful crowdfunding campaigns to get to that point. They've got a busy schedule lined up, heading to London for the Alchemy event conference April 11th through 12th, then to Morocco, the end of April, and so forth. By mid-May, they hope to commence taking pre-orders. The technology is based largely on the work done by Timothy Thrapp of WITS, W-I-T-T-S, who derived it largely from Eklund Brown generator, perhaps. All of these are derived from the work of Nikola Tesla's patent, 511916, simply titled Electric Generator. Tesla wanted to bring these free energy technologies to the world, which wasn't ready for them a century ago. Timothy has been making these plans available for about a $300 donation, but they don't contain adequate information for a full replication, and people have had a hard time getting all the information they need from Timothy, even after making this donation. He allegedly will sell a completed system, built singly, for $100,000, and is talking about eventually mass-producing them to bring the price down. We encourage anyone who works on these plans to give a sizable donation to WITS. We're doing most of the work in pulling them together. Fix the World organization also gratefully receives donations to help with the rollout of these plans. And if any of you end up going commercial with these, I strongly encourage you to include Timothy and Fix the World organization in your royalty budget for each item sold, whether plans, translations, kits, components, completed units, installations, servicing, or franchises. Hope Girl, James, and Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you, Sterling.
Yeah, I've been watching your videos. It's quite impressive what you guys have unfolding over there.
Well, we can say that this has been a series of miracles from the very beginning, and to be here with this group in Taiwan has just been absolutely amazing. Amazing to see the looks on their faces when we explain how the technology is different than what they're used to. And it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of hope going around for the people on this planet, because free energy is finally here.
Well, that statement, finally here, is I certainly can relate to that, having been tracking this stuff for about almost a dozen years now. And it's been a few months away for several years. And now it looks like a lot of different fronts, this one included, are starting to hit the pavement, so to speak, in products that people can build, power their houses with, their cars. And so, just for the lay audience, give us a quick overview of what is the quantum energy generator.
I'll leave that to James.
Okay. Well, it's an electrical generator. It's really the principles that it works on are very unconventional. There is nothing that I know of in the mainstream engineering and motor and generator design that works quite this way. It's a resonance machine, definitely a resonance machine, well, it's really quite unique. There are no magnets, no copper windings on the rotor. There's no commutator, no slip rings. It works on the principle of what they used to call years ago, what they used to call a multi-vibrator. What happens is there is a tank circuit. The main oscillator is a tank circuit that well, the rotor actually causes the inductance to go up and down at the same rate as the RPM of the rotor, and this creates a small voltage in the primary coils, which as soon as that voltage begins to build up, it goes into resonance and begins to generate high voltage pulses, and the high voltage pulses are then transformed into low voltage high current output pulses. It's very unique design. It's a transformer, and it's also it works on mechanical resonance, which is a result of an electrical resonance. So it's actually mechanical motion that creates the high voltage pulses, and then from that point it's more of a conventional transformer action. But the initial there's a very large inductance that gets excited by the mechanical motion of the rotor, and once that excitation begins, the voltage builds very rapidly into the kilovolt range, and those large kV pulses drive the output. So it's the most electromechanical device that I've ever seen. It really is truly electromechanical. So that's the principle that it operates on, and it's not very, very interesting. No magnets or windings are needed on the rotor or the stator. It's actually a mechanical vibration that starts it working.
Well, that's fascinating stuff. Let's go now that we've covered kind of what it is to a question of what you've done in terms of building this thing successfully. From what I understand, you did build one of these and it was running.
Yes. Yes, we have a prototype, and I got the instructions from WITS, and just like you described earlier, there was basic information there, and I have about 30 years of experience at a motor company, a motor manufacturer, but I'm actually an electronics guy myself. I design, well, most of my work has been designing electronic controls for brushless motors. And I'm more of an electronics guy than a mechanical engineer. But I have some knowledge. My dad was a mechanical engineer, and I was hanging around that all my life, and I kind of took the electrical route. But lately, I've been doing a little bit of both. So it's I had to figure some things out, but once I understood what the operating principle was, then it began to be clear to me how to finish it off and how to bring it into operation.
And as far as I know, I mean, I don't know everything in this industry. I am tracking it day and night for 12 years, but you know, there's a lot of things I don't know about, things that are under the radar, things that people are trying to keep quiet, or just language barriers keep things from getting to my attention. But I don't know of any other replications worldwide of Timothy Thrapp's QEG that a lot of people have seen on YouTube. I think the number of visits they've had on those several videos is exceeding several million. So he's gotten a lot of attention from those videos, and you've now replicated that, and you've embodied those into a clarified set of plans, which you put into, you know, you made those available for download, as I mentioned in the introduction. The next question I'd like to get to is, in talking about that you got it running, I've seen a video showing you at the time of Eureka, so to speak, when the motor starts running and a bank of lights goes flashing really bright. It's a pretty short excerpt. Could you maybe flesh out for us a little bit of the device you built, how robust it is, and what kind of runtime you've gotten on it?
Yes, well, the situation was, there was a lot of experimenting with trying to get it to start into resonance, and we had to figure out there's quite a few variables, things like steel type, the number of turns of wire, and the RPM of the rotor, and several parameters that we had to figure out.
And by the way, really, let me interrupt for a second and let you know our audience is a wide mix, but I'd like you to kind of, for this interview, target the scientists among us and the engineers who are going to want to be replicating this. So you don't need to kind of cool your heels, so to speak, on the technical language. Go ahead and just say all the technical jargon you want, okay?
Okay.
Great.
Okay, that's definitely frees me up a little bit. Okay, well, fleshing it out. Well, we had to. I figured out that really the first thing that has to happen is, well, when you have a tank circuit just sitting there, it's not going to do anything until you add some energy to it, and then it begins to oscillate, begins to resonate. And if you monitor the inductance in the two primary coils, which are wired in series, so you have a really big inductor. It's like 40 henries. And I don't know if you're familiar with electrical terms, but that's a very large amount of inductance. And as the rotor begins to rotate, that inductance value fluctuates between about 40 and maybe 33, something like that. 30, well, let's say between 30 and 40 henries. And that fluctuation builds a small voltage in the primary coils, and they begin to resonate, and they resonate at the frequency of the tank circuit, which you set with the capacitors. You have to actually tune it, and it also. And here's the part that's really very very unconventional. The electrical resonance, once you begin to build up into resonance, the electrical resonance turns into a mechanical resonance. It actually, there's a physical vibration in the core, and that vibration it has kind of almost like a piezoelectric effect. So the vibration is what actually generates the high voltage. And so it's a mechanical vibration that, first you have an electrical resonance at this particular frequency, and then that electrical resonance causes the steel to actually vibrate. and that mechanical vibration generates the high voltage. And from that point, it's more of a conventional transformer action. So what we did, what you saw in that short video, was when we found the power band, or when we tuned it to the resonant frequency that would produce the most power. There was a lot of testing involved. I looked at probably hundreds of combinations of capacitance. Series strings. You have to do a big series string to be able to come up with a capacitor that will withstand. Well, it has to be able to withstand up to 25,000 volts. The capacitors. So there's a lot of factors. You have to make sure that the insulation on the core can withstand the high voltage, so that you don't get an arc to the core. So we did a lot of experimenting and to make sure that the thing didn't arc over and destroy itself. But we did develop an insulation system, and as we were looking for the power band, that actually what you see in the video is when we found the resonant frequency that is in the power band, and the light bulbs lit up, and so we observed that it was generating energy. And at that point, we decided that we were going to give it to the people, and the intent was to co-develop from that point. We had raw power, and we decided, okay, we know it's here, so we're going to give it to the people to more or less, well, not finish off. I mean, it's a generator just as it is, but our intent was to get it out there and have all the awesome engineers that are out there observe it and study the function and this
optimize.
Yes, optimize and and a lot of these people are going to, it's even to the point some of the parts are a little hard to find. Well, actually, the capacitors are the only thing that are hard to find, and we can envision after some time that manufacturers will probably be making parts specifically for this device. But yeah, that was the intent, to get it out there and get it improved, and let people see what they could make out of it.
So at this point, basically, still in research and development in terms of the number of steps that need to be gone through to get to a stable system that you could just follow a set of plans and build something and power your house with it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we've developed it to the point where you have raw AC, and to be able to tie it into to the grid, or if you want to operate the unit off the grid, really all you need is an inverter to make it run itself. And it's it only takes less than a tenth of the power that it will generate to run itself. So you have the over 90% of the power available while it's running itself. So it's really amazing thing.
Mm-hmm. On the one that you replicated and you had that Eureka with, mm-hmm. Was that a 10 kilowatt output?
Oh no, that was before we did any capacity testing. It was the point where we first got resonance in the power band.
About when was that?
February. Toward the end of February. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And since then, have you done any, like, I'm just wanting to get an idea of how much that thing has been run and how much power it's produced and what kind of actual power output has been accomplished by it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've done some, we didn't do a really thorough output testing before we released it, but I did test it up to the range of 10 kilowatts, up to about something like 9,300 watts, and well, we tested it. It's not 60 hertz, so we had to test it with purely resistive devices. Like we used heaters and light bulbs basically to test it out, because it's not 60 hertz. It needs you have to connect to an inverter.
How are you measuring the net output?
Well, with a scope and basic current meter, it's 400 hertz, the operating frequency. And that's low enough that standard digital multimeter current clamps can read the current and the voltage, and a scope, of course, looking at the waveform on the scope. But it's really produces raw 400 hertz power. And yes, you were asking about runtime. There's probably I didn't run it for a long time at each for a very long time at each time that I tested it, probably hour and a half at a time. But I did that many times though, so there's probably about 150 hours total time on running the generator while it's producing output. There's a lot of time. We did a lot of mechanical testing before we got to resonance to make sure that the mechanical system was reliable. But in resonance, we've got about 150 hours on it.
And during that time, the output was, I would imagine you didn't necessarily have it at the full, 9,300 watts that you mentioned. That's the highest you got. What would you say was maybe the average output that you were producing?
Probably about 4 kilowatts most of the time, between 4 and 5 kilowatts.
And in terms of, you talked about the generator only requires 1/10 of what is on the input side of what is coming on the output side. Have you actually run it through an inverter and self-looped it yourself?
No, we haven't done that yet. We didn't have the inverter. I put this thing together in my barn, and it was done with basic tools, and once we saw that there was raw power there, in my electronics background, I could see that the rest of it was pretty simple. And all you need is a little bit of hold up time to get it to switch back. Well, you can run it when you start it up. You can run it on 230 volt or 120 volt, whatever system. We're using the full 230 volt series wiring, but it can also be wired in parallel. But anyway, in order for it to run itself, there has to be a little bit of hold up time, and that's what the inverter will provide. Just so the voltage, as soon as you switch over to provide the generator output into the motor circuit, as soon as you make that switch, it slows down enough that it stops producing output. So the inverter will add milliseconds of hold-up time, which is really all you need.
Do you see maybe needing a buffer between, like, you going to a battery in the inverter process?
No, I don't see that. It's the motor, the power requirement for the motor is low enough that it should recover. You know, the inverter has they have built-in hold-up time for, you know, if there's a power dips and brownouts and events like that. They're designed to continue to provide output if the input is disturbed, or if it drops out for a period of time, you still have some output. And really, you only
they
need
got capacitors in them or something.
Yes, yeah. And you only need a few milliseconds to be able to have the power available to restart the drive motor.
Okay.
So we have we did our testing with a Variac, but I think after the inverter is installed, we could use a small electronic motor control. And there's another thing that I wanted to mention too. Another unique feature of this thing is that it's the only generator that I've seen where you can control the voltage and the current with a single control. And what actually happens is once you're in the resonance in the power band, it tends to regulate the frequency and the mechanical, the RPM. It regulates the RPM. In other words, if you try to, when you're in resonance in the power band, if you try to increase the motor speed, it only increases very slightly, but the resonance deepens. So what you're doing is you're adding mechanical energy to the resonance, which deepens it and increases the power output. So the voltage and power go up at the same time when you increase the motor speed.
What kind of tolerances, or when you talk about getting into this resonance and getting these variables into the right harmonics with each other, so to speak, is your window of operation of the set parameters super narrow, or is that lock-in phase fairly wide once you get into it?
Well, I mentioned power band. There is, with any resonance type of device or any tank circuit or radio frequency oscillators, there's always harmonics. This thing it'll operate on harmonics as well as a main frequency. But when you're on a harmonic, you don't get as much power. So that's why I mentioned the power band would be the 400 hertz is that's the peak power range. But it really has several resonance points. It's really amazing. You can depending on which combination of capacitors you use in the tank circuit, you can get it to resonate at several frequencies. In fact, I tried getting it to resonate at 50 hertz and 60 hertz so that we wouldn't have to do the conversion with an inverter, or the inversion, I should say. And it will do it. The problem is when you're at 60 hertz or 50 hertz, the RPM is so low that the thing just growls and it beats itself up. It wouldn't last long. There's a lot of mechanical vibration, and it's really too low of an RPM for this machine. It would have to be a much larger frame, I think, to operate at 60 hertz directly. But when you get to 400 hertz, it's pretty smooth.
Is it possible that you've not yet found the main resonance, and that you're still working with harmonics?
No, I don't think so. We did so much testing in that area that this is definitely the power band. And I have a little bit of previous experience with radio. In fact, radio work was my first love. And we did a lot of experimenting with resonance points, and pretty sure that this is the 400 hertz is the power band.
Yeah, it's interesting that your life experiences seem to be ideally suited to enabling you to figure all this stuff out and then become a teacher to allow others to do the same.
You know, and that's exactly the way that this unfolded. It became more and more obvious to me that, you know, in fact, I've told several people that, you know, I see now that this is really where I was being pointed toward my whole life, because the particular set of experiences that I had. I mean, I'm a non-degreed engineer. I taught myself. It's really a gift from the Lord, is what it is, and I've always said that it was. But you know, I didn't go to university, and I pretty much taught myself. And there's another advantage to that, because I didn't have the built-in resistance to things of this nature, like, you know, the free energy. Oh, this can't be done. You know, second law of thermodynamics and all that stuff. I didn't have it as much to unlearn as many engineers. So it was very interesting.
Yeah, education can sometimes be an impediment rather than the other way around.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Us people who are outside the box know that very well, the number of things we've had to unlearn or rethink. Let's talk now for a few minutes, and Hope, you may want to chime in here. And Valerie, you're there in Taiwan, and you've got a pretty big task to accomplish to, you know, try and pass the baton, so to speak, of your abilities to those wonderful people there. And you know, you'll be there 2 weeks before you have to leave. That's really not a lot of time for something like this. What do you hope to accomplish before you leave?
Well, I'm going to be incredibly optimistic. I can tell you that we're a few days in already, and it's going at a super fast speed. The people that we're working with here are incredibly smart, and they're getting it. They're getting it. They're fascinated, and they're hard workers. We put in some long days, and I think that we might actually be able to get everything done. They have several cores right now. They have one that's fully processed. They have one that's a bare core. So they're learning all the different aspects of it. I think we can get the whole thing together and make a nice video of the working prototype. And our desire is that we're not the ones that come out with the working prototype video. We want to give that job to the people who are dedicated enough to build these things, who believe in them, and we want the people to get all the glory. So yes, hopefully we'll have something like that by the end of this week.
Mm-hmm.
So you're hoping you'll have a working system by the end of the week?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're very close. Very close. These people are very diligent and very dedicated.
So there you have it.
And we're close. It'll definitely be this week.
Awesome. Is there any chance that if you don't get it done, you'll have a chance to swing back through there before your next stop after London?
Well, I won't. I'll be going to London on my own to give a presentation at the Alchemy Event Conference, and my parents, James and Valerie, will be going back home for about a week, and then they'll all be joining me in Morocco. So we do have a pretty tight schedule. But either way, we've been working with this group in Taiwan over Skype and through consultation for about 5 months now, consulting with them in constant conversations, and we've established a really good relationship with the engineers here. So we have no doubt that they'll be just fine no matter what happens. But like we said, it's moving so quickly, and we're feeling pretty confident that we'll have everything completed by the end of this week.
Well, looking at the video, especially where you're taking the core out of the shipping truck, and then you lift it up with that big crane, you know, this is not some backyard mechanic. This is, you know, a factory type of setting. So it looks like you're in good hands.
Excellent hands. And yeah, it's not an IKEA generator.
No, it's no joke. It's
How heavy is
there's
it?
a lot of, well, the fully dressed core is what was it, 140 pounds?
135 pounds.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
How many kilos is
that's
that?
Not a clue.
just the core with the steel and the wire.
Very, very heavy.
Yeah.
It weighs about as much as a thin person.
I understand that people have been having a bit of a problem. The people who make that core have been inundated with orders or inquiries. Where do you send people to place those orders so that they can go out in batches?
Okay, that would be Torelco out of Alpha, New Jersey.
Okay, and how much do those cost?
He has gotten the price down to $2,995 for a fully processed core. So that includes all the insulation, all the wiring, the spacers, and the toroidal winding.
Mhm.
And of course the stator and the rotor.
Yeah, the steel parts. Yeah.
And those are is that the same as what you used, James?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. He was the guy that we started with, and we did a lot of the the development of the insulation system, and you know, we had to develop the best way to wind this thing without. You know, there's a lot of wire on the primary, lots of wire, and we had to figure out how to do it without making any splices, and we had to come up with some. The company that manufactures the winding machines, we had to buy their largest. They call it a shuttle, where you have to put all the wire on the shuttle that you're going to put onto the coil. So it was definitely a learning curve, and they helped us to develop the insulation system and the technique for you know, wrapping the core with insulating tape, and there are several components that we had to put in there to make sure that it'll stand off the high voltage. But they really were wonderful. They really worked with us, and they're good folks. They feel like family to us. So we can recommend, you know, customers going to them for the core.
Sounds
And
like
they-
with all that's gone into that price is very reasonable for what they're getting.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes, and Torelco is very excited because you have to remember it's only been about a week or so since we've open sourced, and so they've been very busy, and they're very diligently getting together their own business systems in order to handle and process all of the orders that are coming in.
Hmm.
Can you give us an idea of how many orders they're getting?
Well, he just ordered 100 cores because they're not actually making the bare core. They're ordering from another company, which we also ordered from, but they're not really giving the best price. So Torelco is ordering 100 cores from them today to start with
Uh-huh.
for the best price.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine the interest has been international, but it seems to me that Europe is leading the world in this kind of stuff, followed by maybe, I don't know, U.S. and then down to Australia and New Zealand, and then the Asian countries also. But could you give us an idea? I mean, not that we're trying to score countries based on their interest in this stuff, but I'm just curious what your observation is in that regard.
Well, I can say a couple things. Our experience here, the group of people from China that have joined us in Taiwan have made great sacrifices just to be here. They had to wait a month to get a visa, and they had to raise a lot of money in order to get the tickets to get over here for that purpose. So I think that they've got the dedication required to really take this to many different levels and take it there very quickly. The other thing that we've noticed is that there's a group in Germany as well that seems to be really taking this and running with it. There's some videos out. We haven't even had time to look at them yet, but they're taking these plans very seriously as well, seeing the potential, and we've already received a whole bunch of plans for innovations. You know, what you can do with the QEG once you've obtained the raw power source, and many different innovations and variations of it. So people are getting really excited. Those are two countries I can think of. Can you think of any others?
Well, I think Sterling is correct about Australia. It seems to be that most of our inquiries are coming in from Australia, even more so than Germany or any other country in Europe.
What about U.S.?
Yeah, maybe 50% in the U.S.
I find that our traffic on our website has been more than 50% international almost the whole time we've been doing this. We've been very careful to couch our wording that this is an international movement, not a U.S. movement. And I think that's helped us have a larger international appeal. But I imagine you found the same thing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that number, 50%, is in the ballpark of what I'm seeing too. Now, I want to address, if I could, the plans. Some of the feedback that I've been getting from people who have engineering degrees and have understanding similar to what James has, who are looking at and reading carefully and you know, thinking about sourcing and building this thing. There are some holes or gaps in some of the descriptions of, you know, there's a listing for a component, but there's no description of where it goes in the plans. What are your plans for beefing up the plans so that they're more complete?
Well, we're gonna update. We're planning to do an update to the user manual. We were informed that there were a few things missing. We were really working fast and trying to get all the details in there. But there were a couple of things we overlooked, and we're right now, yesterday and today, we're working on updates for the manual that we'll put on the Fix the World website and the blog post too.
Yep, on Fix the World website and on the blog post. And these, just to be clear, these updates would just be additional information.
Yes.
They would not be any kind of corrections to the information that's already out there, because the information that's out is correct, but some of those parts, like I think it was one of the coils perhaps you were speaking of in the plans, we're going to give some more information on that to just keep putting it out there and updating it as we go.
Yeah. There wasn't too much detail about how to build this coil, and we'll fill that in.
And if people are getting their cores from your source, then that is a bit of a moot point. But if they want to build the whole thing from scratch, then that kind of information, of course, will be important. I'm wondering also, you partially addressed this. There's a lot of moving parts going on right now in this project. Everything from the theory to the plans to the communities based, you know, who are getting together to make these things. What is the best go-to place for coordinating all this? Is that the Fix the World website?
Well, I can speak to that. We were actually hoping that someone out there could take that on. We are doing the best that we can. and to build out our team. We don't want to control it. That's the thing. If we have a couple of websites already that have popped up on their own. There's a Skype chat room where people are asking questions. There's one website that has several forums so that maybe the different communities can go and meet up. Just posted some links to those 2 resources on our latest blog post. But we don't want to be the main source and center for all this information. We want to give people the freedom and the liberty to organize this in any way that they can. And, you know, perhaps, Sterling, you can help out with that as well. That would be wonderful.
I've been doing the best I can. As you know, we've got a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of really cool projects going on right now. And as I come across new information, I try and update the QEG page we have on our site to be kind of the grand central station to provide all the necessary links for every possible detail and have it well organized. But I'm a bit spread thin right now, but I'm doing the best I can. And so we'll try and keep up with you and referring people to where the best sources are for, you know, for example, your the coil builder that you mentioned, and the forums, and the you know, the latest set of plans. Try and keep up with you. And so feel free, as you come across key information, as you have been doing, just to send me the link and I can add it to our page. So we'll do the best we can to keep up with you. You guys are running pretty fast.
Yeah, we certainly are.
Yes.
Well, it's only taken 130 years, so, or more.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to, I hesitate to go into this area, but I want to address it because it is something that I think needs to be addressed. This whole thing with Timothy Thrapp, I mean, we love him to death. He's a brilliant guy. I just watched a video this morning of 80 Amish guys moving a house. It was hilarious. 150, about 100 feet. They took the thing up and they walked it onto a new foundation. They set it down when they got it on the foundation at an angle so they could take a breather. Then they picked it up again and moved it right into place. And, you know, he's part of that whole culture. And, you know, he does things a lot differently than most of us. You know, he wants a lot of money up front just to talk to him on the phone. And, you know, he's got some different ways of doing business. But he obviously is very talented, and I believe that he's the real deal when it comes to building stuff, making things work. He's able to take plans and tweak them to get them to operate. And we owe him a lot for what he's done. But at the same time, you know, what has he done in the 20 years he's been working on this? What do we have in the marketplace or even in the community to show for all of his hard work? And as much as he dislikes what you guys have done in taking his plans and improving them and posting them, you know, there's the possibility that he may get really, really mad, so mad to call an attorney and maybe try and take some action. We hope that that won't happen. We hope that people, by sending him donations, will slake his anger and will make him happy that it's gone this way, and he'll just start getting a good income from royalties through what you're doing. And so, if anything, just my bringing this up, I hope that by people realizing the role that Timothy Thrapp has played in this whole process, and though reluctantly in the role that you guys have then taken this to, it needed to go through an uncomfortable phase. I mean, what he's done has not been working. His business, you know, mode of operation just is not something very many people can interact with. And so you guys have been able to break out of that logjam, and things are starting to move now. And I just want to make sure that people realize that they should be sending Timothy Thrapp some donation money for, call it a royalty for 5%, for example, of what their commercial product price. And you guys should be getting a portion of that as well for the work that you've done, so you can continue the work that you're doing and propagating and research and development. I'm sure there's more where this came from. So do you want to add anything to that sentiment that I just expressed?
I'd just like to say we absolutely agree. Definitely should help out WITS. We gave them credit in the manual and suggested there as well to please send them a donation. And I'd like to leave it over to James as well to say a few words.
Yes, Sterling. I was having the same thought. There's something like this. There's bound to be some birthing pains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just the nature of it. But Woods was our teacher, and yeah, I'm very impressed with Timothy Thrapp, and it was. I agree with what you say. He's an unconventional guy, definitely. But we do nothing but we bless them, the Wits Ministries, and I hope that people will realize that they were involved in this too. They were our teachers, and they should definitely, people should donate to the ministries, and we maybe the thing can grow together.
Yeah, we can't do this alone. We have to do this together at this point.
Yes.
Well, I couldn't help but think of the irony of the timing of that Amish video. What other people on the earth could do something like that than the Amish? Everyone else wants to put a crane to it. And if you think about the man hours that it would take to get everything reinforced, to be able to pick that thing up from a crane, it would probably be more man hours than the 80 people coming over for a couple of, for 20 minutes to move this house.
That's brilliant.
And, that kind of cooperative, local distributed energy is what open sourcing is all about. I mean, that 80 people moving a house that's the whole open source spirit. And so, I think Timothy should be happy about that. And even though there is some pain involved, he's not happy right now. But hopefully, as the checks start rolling in and he starts getting some good donations, the frown will turn to a smile.
Yes.
Yeah, and we hope too that the end result of all of this is that whether it's through Witz's work or the plans that we open sourced, the end result is that more people will have free energy, and that's what our goal is to get the energy to the people.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Let's talk about the practical aspect of this for a minute. I think you've made a pretty good case that we've got something that's very interesting and should be looked at scientifically. But as I look at that coil and think of the number 10 kilowatts, I'm seeing dollar signs flash through my eyes. This thing's going to be pretty expensive at first. What are your prognosis, your predictions for the price point on this thing? At first it's going to be expensive, but once it's, your friends in China, for example, once they can get their hands on it and do their magic to making things in large quantities cheaply, how soon do you think we'll have something that can be affordable for people?
That is actually, that's my favorite part of this whole process, now that we've given it away, to see what humanity can do to get the pricing down, because it's like, Adam Smith's invisible hand is now going to become the millions of invisible hands. People have been getting very, very creative. We have people who have an altruistic spirit who want to just make the cores and print them out and give them away because they have extra steel laying around, so you never know how that's going to be. James, do you have any idea how long it might take to get this to a more affordable level?
Well, I would say within 6 months.
6 months.
We would have we could settle into a pretty reliable cost structure. Within that time, it's going like wildfire now, and within that time frame, possibly even less. Well, I don't know. It's really hard to put a time figure on it, because even while we've been here, these folks in Taiwan are amazing. They the whole time that we're training them to build this. And conversing with them, they're trying to figure out best way to mass produce it and cost reduce it. And this is within the first 3 days that they've seen the thing, and they're all talking about how to cost reduce it and how to get it into production, and all the groups that are now forming are going to be doing this, similar things, and people will start to share sourcing information, where to get parts.
That's important.
Yes, and eventually I'm sure that manufacturers will see these volumes going up, like a particular part that they have on the shelf, the volume all of a sudden went to 800%, and they'll start making parts just for the QEG, and it's the sky's the limit as far as everyone who does cost reduction in the in mass marketing is gonna get involved in this, and it may be even less than 6 months, and continually. I think the cost will be reduced continually as people develop the set of parts, and there's going to be a lot of innovations, and so it's going to happen rapidly.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
You've got as we mentioned at the beginning, you've got a busy schedule, and part of that schedule involves going out and doing more training like what you're doing in Taiwan. Could you maybe speak for a minute to two things? Number one, what your openings are like, and number two, what the principles are of when you go out and do a training. Is there like a minimum amount of time that you want to, at least a week, for example, or 2 weeks, a number that you want people to allocate to be able to have enough time to go from point A to Z? Or you want to talk to that for a minute?
Yeah, I can say a few things about that. Right now, we've only got ourselves booked through to the beginning of May, and we're probably going to be going to Peru in June, and we have to spend May doing some more organizing because of what's happened since we open source with our business end of things. A week is definitely an ideal period of time to do a training with a group of people. And what else?
That's if they have the components already on
yes,
hand, so you don't have to wait for them.
That was the important part. Now, we've had many different answers from people who are trying to source parts depending upon what part of the world they're in. Some of these things have really long lead times, so you have to have all the parts ready and in the workshop ready to assemble for right when we get there. And then a week after that is how much time it would take to put the thing together, do all of the training, lots of Q&A, and then I do a little a business suggestion course as well to help people figure out how to, distribute them in their local communities.
By the way, I want to congratulate you on your ability to market this thing. We've done a number of crowdfunding projects, and most of them have fallen flat on their face, have been duds. And you're very successful in having enough hype and hope in your message, but not too much. I tend to be very bland in my presentations, say, scientifically, here's what you've got, and I try and stay away from any sensationalizing. But marketing is all about hype, and you put enough in there to get people excited. So I think you did a good job there. Two very successful campaigns that went almost 2 times over what you were aiming for. Is the second one still open, or is it closed now?
The second one is still open, and we're still receiving donations, which is beautiful and wonderful because we can put all of that towards a train the trainer program that we would like to develop. Because I'm only one person and James is only one person, and we would like to train other people who can go out and train people in the communities to build QEG, so that this can grow much quicker and much more exponentially. I do want to mention one thing about the crowdfunding success. Is it wasn't just throw up a campaign and write a couple of posts about it. It was a long development of relationships and developing an online reputation and connecting with people's hearts through some of the work that we've done. So we built a following over time for people that supported our work and believed in our mission. And then we brought out the free energy, and then we had the campaign. And we have a lot of friends who are bloggers as well who helped us spread the word. So it was a long established process just to get to that point of successfully crowdfunding.
want to give us a number on that, of approximately how many months or years we're involved in that nurturing phase?
Let's see, about a year. About a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very good. I want to comment, if I could, about the word hope that you have in your name. As I've been giving presentations over the years, one of my slides talks about the hope factor and the power of hope alone that free energy brings to people. We have a cabal worldwide who is trying to establish a world tyranny to turn us all into slaves and to destroy the planet. I mean, that's basically the bottom line of what they're about. They're very demonic, evil people who do not want an empowered humanity. Free energy is all about freedom, is all about empowerment, power to the people. And so supporting the free energy revolution is a peaceful revolution to stick it to the man by making them irrelevant, by making them obsolete, because now we don't need them. We don't need their power company. We don't need their system. We can be independent of them because we've outgrown them. And so that's kind of been my message. And I said, look at, these guys are trying to bring about world collapse and a collapse of the world global economy so that they can make us dependent on them and the pig trough, the socialism that they're putting in front of us, where we just barely make enough to make a living and not enough to become interesting and pursue our dreams, but just to be good slaves. That's what they're about. And we're about empowering people. We're about giving people hope and getting to look up and to step into their godhood and to step into the great, wonderful, amazing beings that they are as children of God. And the word hope is a huge word in this whole campaign. 911 was all about fear. Hope is the antithesis of fear. And free energy is the antithesis of what these guys are trying to do to the planet. And I want to comment on that at all?
I just have to say, thank you for your eloquent wording of that. It really resonates with the reason why I gave myself the pen name of Hope Girl. And my first blog post a year and a half or so ago was all about that corruption and the cabal and what they were doing. I was doing a full expose and giving lots of backup documentation to try to educate and inform and awaken people to that. But my personal take on it is you don't just give somebody a whole bunch of bad news and then leave them. You have to give them some hope to lift them up at the end, to give them the strength to move forward, because it really is up to us in order to overcome this. So just wanted to say thank you for nailing that one right on the head. That was perfect.
And that's where I've come from too. In my own walk, I went through a phase for about a decade where I was crying conspiracy and exposing all this stuff and basically helping people hunker down for the end of the world as we transition into a new world. But there's going to be a very bad mark of the beast, reign of the beast, period of captivity that precedes that, and basically saying, get ready kind of thing. And when I got involved in free energy 12 years ago, it felt so much better to be part of the solution than to be, talking about the bad news all the time. And it really, is so much more empowering and enlightening and motivating to be part of a solution than to be part of pointing out problems.
Oh, absolutely. It's the hope and the love and the compassion and forgiveness that people can put out there is 1,000 times more powerful than any of the negativity and the wars and all of that. So yeah, we're definitely on the same page.
And I really see a huge awakening taking place right now. What you guys are doing is huge in that, and there's other things as well that are, I see the dynamics getting very, very big. The evil is getting huge, and it's astonishing how blatant they're being, and at the same time it's astonishing at how blatant free energy is getting. The vindication is getting huge, and yet people are still denying it. People are still, the skeptics still have things that they can hang on and still discount things. But it's getting harder and harder for them to poo-poo what we're doing.
Yes, definitely.
I have something I'd like to quickly read out loud, if I may,
Okay.
because we just put out a blog post, and just on those same lines, we have a word for the believers. This is the moment many have been waiting decades for, and now it's up to each and every one of us to actively engage in doing the work. Find parts, find engineers, find a workspace, pool your resources, and work together, and you can manifest this for yourselves right now. We can visualize and meditate for a QEG for a long time before we have one providing the power in our homes. Now is the time to act in any way you can to make this happen for yourselves and your people. And I'd like to say a word for the skeptics. Please try to have an open mind. This is real, and many people desperately need this. If we told you 30 years ago that everyone would be walking around with smartphones, you would have thought we were crazy. If you want to be skeptical, that is your right, and we can respect that. In the next few months, as people start building QEGs, you will have whatever you need to feel comfortable with this change. In the meantime, we ask that you refrain from spreading negativity during the infant stages of something that so many brave souls are making great sacrifices to achieve. And I just want to end this reading with this one last paragraph here. This is a word to the inventors and engineers of free energy technology. We know that you have been, we know what you have been through, and we know that it has not been easy. Humanity needs your inventions, and many of you need recognition and financial support for your work. The old ways of doing business do not work. We know this because no one has free energy until now. This can be your opportunity to get your inventions out there. If you follow our example and open source your inventions, there are enough good people out there in this world that will help you have what you need. And in return, humanity will have what they need, and we can put an end to the suffering on this planet once and for all. We took a stand and did this. Who will stand with us?
That's very good, and I would like to add to that the importance that people who are involved in this, from the business end, from writing plans, doing translations, making kits, selling components, send your royalties, at least 5%, split them as you feel necessary between WITS and Fix the World organization. They deserve it, and whoever else is making some big waves in this, we wouldn't mind a small piece of the action too for the role that we've played in helping to lay the foundation for people believing in this stuff. So by showing that open sourcing works, doing the right thing for WITS and for Fix the World organization and other key players, show that open sourcing can be very beneficial to make a lot of people wealthy, including and especially yourself. There's going to be a lot of wealth coming in the world. We're going to go from scarcity to abundance. And so let's show these inventors who have great technologies that the old model is obsolete. Let's show a new model of sharing and abundance.
I do have something I would like to add to that too. It's very exciting because the QEG is our pilot project. The Fix the World organization holds plans for over 60 planet-changing projects, and we have established what we call a give-back policy or a give-back proposal, which would go along the lines of royalties. It's just kind of a new paradigm definition where it's a choice. If you'd like to give back some money that you have acquired by selling QEGs, anything that we would receive from something like that would go to funding other planet-changing projects, and who knows, maybe next year we can come back and cure all the diseases in the world.
Yeah, there's plenty of good causes that need some funding, so amen. Well, it's been great talking to you guys and having this interview. I really think we've had a great a little more than an hour together. We wish you the best in what you're doing. Are there any final words, things that you want to get out that you forgot, even little engineering details, James?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think I covered it all. It's really you know, with all my electronics and mechanical experience, I've never seen a device that's operates on this principle. It's really quite unique, and I hope that as these plans go out and engineers look these over and build them and operate them, and I just, they're going to innovate, and it's just going to be awesome to see, this develop into, well, they could be scaled up, scaled down, and it's really exciting to see where this is going, and we want to encourage that. We don't want to be the ones to control it. We wanted to put it out there and see what the people will do with it. And if this week is any indication, it's boy, we're in for a ride.
Really quick, just as our last minute, where do you see this application fitting from the small to the large?
Well, it's the target that we were aiming for the whole time is a single residence, and 10 kilowatts is probably in the U.S. that's
you have to budget usage a little bit when you have your air conditioner on and whatnot, but 10 kilowatts should be more than adequate for any home in the United States.
Yeah, and the Europeans, 5,000 is enough. For most Europeans, so Americans are a little bit more power hungry, but that was the target. It's a single residence home. It's kind of I guess from what I've learned in the last couple of years, that's really the holy grail of a device that will, requires no fuel, would be, the scale to power a single residence.
I would imagine we'll want to see it also scaled to be able to sit in the back of an electric vehicle to keep it running down the road without stopping for fuel.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
Well, you
Scale them up,
guys,
scale them down. Mm-hmm.
Again, it's fixtheworld.org, is that right?
Yes. Or fixtheworldproject.org.
Project.org. Okay. And all your contact information and whatnot is there. And also they can go to PESWiki.com and just do a Google search for PESWiki and QEG, and you'll pull up our project page for this and the resources we have listed there. You guys keep up the great work. You're doing fantastic stuff, and thanks indirectly to you, Timothy Thrapp.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Timothy, and WIT's organization. Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Sterling, for such a wonderful call.
Thank you. You take care.
Thanks so much. Wonderful to meet you.
Likewise.
Thanks.
Meet in person sometime soon. Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Free Energy Now, brought to you by PES, Pure Energy Systems. You may access past archives and upcoming show info at freeenergynow.net and join us for our daily news at freeenergynews.com. We invite you to see our directory of energy technologies at peswiki.com. That's peswiki.com. PES, the Pure Energy Systems Information Network.
Almost a dozen years now, and it's been a few months away for several years, and now it looks like a lot of different fronts, this one included, are starting to hit the pavement, so to speak, in products that people can build, power their houses with, their cars. And so just for the lay audience, give us a quick overview of what is the quantum energy generator.
I'll leave that to James.
Okay. Well, it's an electrical generator. It's really the principles that it works on are very unconventional. There is nothing that I know of in the mainstream engineering and motor and generator design that works quite this way. It's a resonance machine, definitely a resonance machine, well, there's it's really quite unique. There are no magnets, no copper windings on the rotor. There's no commutator, no slip rings. It works on the principle of what they used to call years ago, what they used to call a multi-vibrator. What happens is
talking about eventually mass producing them to bring the price down. We encourage anyone who works on these plans to give a sizable donation to WITS for doing most of the work in pulling them together. Fix the World organization also gratefully receives donations to help with the rollout of these plans. And if any of you end up going commercial with these, I strongly encourage you to include Timothy and Fix the World organization in your royalty budget for each item sold. Whether plans, translations, kits, components, completed units, installations, servicing, or franchises. Hope Girl, James, and Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you, Sterling.
Yeah, I've been watching your videos. It's quite impressive what you guys have unfolding over there.
Well, we can say that this has been a series of miracles from the very beginning, and to be here with this group in Taiwan has just been absolutely amazing. Amazing to see the looks on their faces when we explain how the technology is different than what they're used to. And it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of hope going around for the people on this planet because free energy is finally here.
Well, that statement finally here is, I certainly can relate to that, having been tracking this stuff for about QEG family. They're presently in Taiwan, where they are training around 30 people, including from China, how to build one of these systems. They're very busy, and they'll be telling us about that. They posted a set of plans for these for anyone to download on March 25th, receiving 20,000 downloads in the first 24 hours. Prior to this, they ran 2 very successful crowdfunding campaigns to get to that point. They've got a busy schedule lined up, heading to London for the Alchemy event conference April 11th through 12th, then to Morocco, the end of April, and so forth. By mid-May, they hope to commence taking pre-orders. The technology is based largely on the work done by Timothy Thrapp of WITS, W-I-T-T-S, who derived it largely from Eklund Brown generator, perhaps. All of these are derived from the work of Nikola Tesla's patent 511916, simply titled Electric Generator. Tesla wanted to bring these free energy technologies to the world, which wasn't ready for them a century ago. Timothy has been making these plans available for about a $300 donation, but they don't contain adequate information for a full replication, and people have had a hard time getting all the information they need from Timothy, even after making this donation. He allegedly will sell a completed system, built singly, for $100,000, and is
Free energy now.
Imagine a world in which each home has its own power generator that obtains its energy in such a way that no fuel has to be added. Imagine every vehicle being able to run without ever stopping for fuel. Imagine each appliance having its own power source that never has to be recharged. That is the world of the future. Join with us now as we track our progress towards such a world.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Allen. You can join us online at freeenergynow.net, where you can find a list of past guests, download those interviews, and read the stories associated with those shows. We're joined today, April 3rd, 2014, by some of the folks at Fix the World organization. They recently announced the open sourcing of the Quantum Energy Generator, or QEG, which they say is capable of outputting 10 kilowatts in self-sustaining mode. With us on the show today are Hope Girl, who has been the public face for the project, and her father-in-law, James Robitaille, of Pennsylvania, the inventor who got the system running, as well as Hope's mother, Valerie. They call themselves the Free the World QEG.
There is a tank circuit. The main oscillator is a tank circuit that well, the rotor actually causes the inductance to go up and down at the same rate as the RPM of the rotor, and this creates a small voltage in the primary coils, which as soon as that voltage begins to build up, it goes into resonance and begins to generate high voltage pulses, and the high voltage pulses are then transformed into low voltage high current output pulses. It's a very unique design. It's a transformer, and it's also it works on mechanical resonance, which is a result of an electrical resonance. So it's actually mechanical motion that creates the high voltage pulses, and then from that point it's more of a conventional transformer action. But the initial there's a very large inductance that gets excited by the mechanical motion of the rotor, and once that excitation begins, the voltage builds very rapidly.